My name is East Bay Al, and here we have a special episode brought to you by
me and this guy, East Bay Al. My name is Garrett. Here's my dad.
Yes, we have
Hi. My name is Scott. I'm Garrett's dad.
we have a special guest here. It's Scott.
Scott Wilmoth. Yes, this is my dad. Dad, we want to tell a little bit about yourself to the people.
Sure. My name's Scott. I am 56 years old, and I enjoy all sorts of music. And I'm a school teacher by trade. I've been teaching high school for 30 years, and I enjoy that very much. And it gives me an opportunity to earn some money and have some time to go to concerts, which is one of my favorite things to do.
That's what it's all about. Yo, you've showed me a book of all of your special tickets that you've saved. Like, this is crazy. You got Bruce Springsteen in 2002. You've got Rush in 1987. You got U2 over here in what is this?
Well, this is the 360 tour.
This is 2010. Yeah. But you've gone to a lot of shows.
I do a lot of shows,
and so you've got a lot of taste here. You got like you grew up in the 80s.
I was in high school in the 80s. I graduated high school in 1984. I went to my first concert at that time when I was a senior in high school. I went and saw U2 at the old LA Sports Arena, and I've been going to concerts ever since.
So you got an OG music aficionado for a dad.
Yes,
like old school.
That's how I winded up here. Let's just say.
Let me say, the apple has not fallen far from the tree. You are almost exact same taste from what I'm reading here.
Pretty much.
Kenny Loggins. You got. Here's Rush again. Van Halen, Bruce Springsteen again. Like, this is your stuff.
This is my stuff.
Yeah. But hey, that's not a bad thing.
No,
honestly,
it is not.
It's great to see father-son generational taste that just blends into each other. You know, it's because my dad grew up in the same kind of era, and took up a lot of the same kind of music. Jimmy Buffett is his favorite band of all time.
Seen Jimmy Buffett?
Yeah, I bet you have. For me personally, like, I'm more of a like 90s, early 2000s. That's when I grew up. So
you're not a parrot head?
Oh well, I on and off. You know, I dabble, but I just, you know.
You squawk every now and then?
Yeah, I've seen him live.
Uh-huh.
But I would say your relationship has much more of a blending together of taste, and
absolutely.
Yeah, he.
That's really special to see.
Thank you. He and his brother were passengers in my car numerous times.
Yeah,
and
that's how it starts.
When I'm the driver, it's my music, and so that's what they were exposed to.
Yeah.
There you go. And you were 16 when AC/DC dropped Back in Black. Right.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much what kicked off like that kind of era of hard rock in the 80s, and kind of made that decade sound exactly what it sounded like.
Loved Back in Black.
And so you were right in the middle of that.
Yes.
I wasn't. He wasn't.
I wasn't alive yet.
You know, some things you can't really control. Can't control where you're born. So I can't, speak to that. Although I have seen a couple cool early 2000s shows and 2010 shows, but I'll bet you have too.
I have,
which is why you're here. You've got that charisma of a guy who's been around and seen a couple bands, and smoke a cigarette. Yeah, I've seen them.
I've seen them.
I've seen them before it was cool.
I will never. If I see my dad smoking a cigarette, it
was just a metaphor.
That's the most cursed image I've ever put in my head.
It was just a metaphor.
Yeah, I know.
It's the meme. Like, I remember that. I remember those days.
You kids.
Yeah.
You kids and your surprise privileges.
Surprise privileges.
Seeing music live was was good. I remember when Back in Black came out, and I remember people thought AC/DC was a done band when Bon Scott passed away, and
Wow.
and they came out with Back in Black with their new singer, and well, at the time their new singer, and Brian Johnson, and took the world by storm. That was an incredible. I love Back in Black. It was a good album. Saw AC/DC once. It's one of the very few concerts I went to by myself.
Awesome.
Because I really wanted to see them, and they were very good show.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite band growing up? Like the band that you absolutely just could not, like they gave you that feeling. Like we talked in the first episode about that feeling. The first time you hear that band and you're sold on that genre of music, period. Like
that was in elementary school, and it was Kiss.
Kiss.
Yeah, and I listened to Kiss a lot. Kiss Alive put me over the top. I shared a room with my brother growing up, and on the wall next to my bed, I told Garrett it was floor to ceiling, side to side, Kiss posters. I'd buy Circus magazine and Rolling Stone magazine and any magazines that had Kiss pictures in it. They were cut out and on my wall at some point in time.
I love that. That's cool.
But I really enjoyed Kiss. I never got to see them until much later. Because I was too young, and it freaked my mom out. Kiss freaked my mom out when she would come in and see that. Like, a lot of music does, to the older generation.
Yeah. Were they controversial at all?
Very.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. They.
Because you only get like a little bit of like mumblings in like maybe a magazine when you're our age about like the real culture shock of like a band like Kiss, because like nowadays like everyone wants to see like their final tour, right?
Right.
But like what's lost is the controversies.
Right.
It's in the memories of guys like you who lived it.
Yeah. They were Kiss, a lot of people said that it stood for Knights in Satan's Service, and they were devil worshippers, and people of the church, wanted to ban them, and they couldn't, play in certain cities, and it was like the first, when you have a guy spit blood and breathe fire on a stage, and another guy whose guitar, bursts into or smokes, right, and then he blows it up, and they were all about the theatrics, and I remember when they were on Paul Lynde's Halloween special, and they got exposed on TV to America, and then they made the horrible movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
It's a great movie. It was a great movie.
I didn't even know they had a movie.
Dude, if we ever get the chance to sit down and watch it together, it's an experience.
All right, sold. Yeah, Gene Simmons was a psycho live. Like,
They were.
Just stuff like, just crazy.
Everything was about the show, right? And then you got caught up in the show, and as a kid I got caught up in the show, and then when I could afford to go to concerts, and I just started going to concerts when when Ace left the band, or Peter left the band, and then Ace left the band, and then they took their makeup off, and then I really wasn't into them when they had the makeup off, and then when they put the makeup back on and reunited, that's when we started.
Wow,
that's the
crazy.
first time I saw them.
That's crazy. I didn't even know they took off the makeup.
Oh yeah,
it
they
just
did.
seems so central to that band.
Very much, and they needed something to keep up with the times then, because there was a lot of that. They called it hair metal, right? A lot of that hair metal at the time, and they tried to fit into that niche or that genre. But that was just something I just wasn't into their style at that time. I liked Kiss, the original four with the makeup on.
Yeah, the OG four.
That's right.
Yeah, I saw Kiss. They're just insane live.
They
still, like that's their strength, playing live, and I love that about certain bands. I love the live show almost more than the studio. Maybe in a lot of cases, yes, I do actually love live performances more than studio, because there's just so much more going on. You're experiencing it with your own eyes, right? And it's just a beautiful thing.
You listen to those first 3 Kiss albums, even Rock and Roll All Night, right? Their big one, it just doesn't pop on a studio record, but you hear it on a live.
Now you're making magic.
Yeah.
You're hooked.
By the way, our dog's here.
Yeah, say hi. That's our fourth
Her name's
special guest.
Maddie, yes.
Maddie is walking around.
Yeah.
We have her here.
She was also not around during the 80s, I don't imagine.
No.
No, she's 2 years old.
Yeah.
And she looks like she's 5.
Yeah.
She's a big dog.
So yeah, that the Satanic Panic. Yeah, I'll bet Kiss was very much into the culture shock.
They were.
And in the 80s, that was pretty hard. Like a pretty hard thing for rock bands because you get censored.
Absolutely.
And back then, like if you get censored off the radio, that was it. You know, and
that was your only outlet.
that was your only outlet. You know, outside of like the venues that would have you. And yeah, so it's a different world, I'll bet.
Absolutely.
Like whole different world before the internet.
Absolutely. We were just talking today about waiting in line at record stores for tickets, right? The concerts. Like we would wait at Warehouse Records or Music Plus or Tower Records. We would wait outside, Friday, camp out on a Friday night and be in line to get tickets on a Saturday morning. Hopefully you got them, right? That's how you did it, right? It was a different world.
Off the black market.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
But it was a good time. It was a good time to see shows. After when I started growing up, and really started going to shows, like I said, I saw U2 was my first concert, and I've seen them.
U2 was your first concert.
U2.
And when was that?
It was 1984.
84.
Well, LA Sports Arena, which doesn't exist anymore. They tore that down. But yeah, we saw them, and it was magical. And I've seen U2 over 30 times, and they are playing in the fall. They have a residency in the fall through the winter in Las Vegas at a new arena that they're opening up called the Sphere behind the Venetian. And we got tickets for a few nights to see them there too.
I can't imagine like seeing a band 30 times, like more than 30 times. Like I'm still trying to see like Green Day like more than 10.
How many times have you seen Surprise Privilege?
Oh, that's true. I mean, but it's less than 30. I'll tell you that.
Same here.
Like, it's.
If you've seen Surprise Privilege over 30 times, you're the problem.
Oh my god.
You have a problem.
Yeah, but that's the joke.
I'm kidding.
I've seen Surprise Privilege once. They were good.
They're fun. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, when it comes to being around as long as you have, yeah. I mean, I wish I could see a whole couple bands, like 30 different times.
We've seen Green Day a couple of times. 3 times we've seen Green Day, and we took him once, twice.
Well, once you took me. I've seen them twice.
Oh, right. Oh, it's right. Cause you went up with your niece or cousin up in San Francisco, but we saw them at Dodger Stadium, and we saw them at the Rose Bowl, and then my wife and I saw them in San Diego. They are a fun band.
Absolutely,
really enjoyed
one of the best live bands. We're talking about live, they are always on point, and there's a reason why every preteen and teenager is like always into them. Yeah, no matter what generation you're in, like they just hook you with their songs.
They do.
Yeah, and live is just the icing on the cake. They've got so much energy. I saw them when they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I was in the bleachers of the Cleveland House of Blues, and my dad turned to me and he goes, "These guys are 20." Like, and we knew they weren't, but like I knew what he was saying. It's like these guys have not slowed down a bit. Right. They are insane with their fountain of youth energy, and honestly, it's an inspiration to me. I've always tried to play drums like that. I've always tried to play drums regardless of what age I am. By the way, I'm kind of a fossil in the scene, 26. But I always look at like, well, 26 for a rock star is not. I mean, it's not that old, and it's really just, you know, it's all just mentality. You know, you got to have that hunger to play, and some bands have it, and some bands don't. You know, and
It's absolutely true.
These guys do.
That's absolutely right. Green Day has it. When we saw them last at Dodger Stadium, they had them. They had Dodgers the sold out, and they had them in the palm of their hands. And they covered a Kiss song.
They
covered
do.
rock and roll all
They
night.
cover rock and roll all night now. That's a good observation. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Also, I like what you said about, you know, that motivation. You know, it gives you that hunger. I like that too, because I mean, you know, if this guy hadn't taken me 2 shows, I wouldn't be talking with you. Let's just put it that way. I wouldn't have had the drive to make music and just go to concerts and, you know, talk to people and get that experience. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you again.
Yeah,
and also that's why I want to make music with people like you, because, you know, a lot of people, musicians. I've met a lot of musicians in my life who do it as like a hustle or it's just something that they can do. It's like, I want to do it with people who like, they want to go the distance. And I feel like we both understand that, which is why we're doing this.
We do. And that's why it's so important to have parents who like stoke that fire, because it's like, you know, kids, it's not easy to figure things out for themselves. So if you have that like guidance in your life, it's great, you know, and you can guide the next generation to, you know, the fountain of taste in music.
We're trying.
You know, and
I try in my classroom. I play music every day as students walk in.
Well, you're probably that cool teacher.
Well, I'm getting older, so I don't know how cool I am. But
I thought it was.
But I play my music, and I'm getting more and more of who's that or what's that, or and they don't listen, but you know, because it's a different generation, right? But we're trying every now and then. I had this young student this year who signed my yearbook, and she said, you know, if your taste in music was a person, I'd give it a hug. Like, she really liked it. So
that's very kind. That's very
helps.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's the idea of the idea of your taste like coming down to this generation, because let me tell you something, like this generation has its own thing. It has its own music. It has its own scene. But I mean, you see a lot of kids these days wearing Nirvana shirts.
Absolutely.
And Foo Fighters shirts and Green Day shirts, and I'll bet you're seeing more of that now than you were back then, because, you know, back then, let's face it, I'm pretty sure like when you were growing up, you weren't like, you know, you didn't have the shirts of like the bands 30 years ago, did you?
We did, but they weren't as prevalent as they are now. I mean, in order to get a lot of those shirts, you had to go to the shows.
Right.
And they weren't astronomically priced like they are now, right? When you go to the shows, they were reasonable, but you would get them at the shows, and a lot of times we had places in malls that you can get decals like pressed onto your shirts, and so then, you know, after a few washes, the decals would start peeling off and stuff.
I have no idea what a decal is.
Exactly. I know. I mean, you would literally go to the mall and there'd be decals on the wall, and you'd pick the color of your shirt and you'd say, I want that one. And then they'd get this hot iron and they'd press it on. That's how I got my first Kiss shirt, honestly. You know, but nowadays,
That's how like iron it on your
That's
shirt.
probably how like
yeah.
every single bass scene merch is made.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how it was when my uncle was in his scene back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would just be, they'd print t-shirts and
Yep.
like sell them at $5 a pop.
Yep.
Do it yourself.
But you see a lot, like at our school, usually one day a year for a spirit day, we'll have, you know, rock band t-shirt day or band t-shirt day, and that's when all those shirts come out, right? The Nirvana shirts and the Green Day shirts, and they all come out.
Yeah, it's still a big part of the culture.
It is.
Like, and a lot of that were battles fought like 30, 40 years ago
Absolutely.
to fight that culture shock that came up. Because I know we've talked about this in a previous episode, like Chuck Berry and like old rock and roll was considered satanic.
Absolutely.
Like, and that was like 30 years before the actual satanic panic of the 80s. And so like, and nowadays you don't really see that too much because all those battles have been fought already.
Right.
So rock and roll is like totally okay with everybody because pretty much everybody who thought it was satanic is now dead.
There's,
But
there's some truth in that, but you still
with
see,
some exceptions, of course, because there's still fossils alive who.
but you still see the shock. There's still an element of shock in music that's created today. Like, and there's always going to be that element of what are your children listening to that's going to make your parents angry,
Right.
and
That's
make
it.
your parents upset. And
Yeah.
and I listen. You know what I hear my kids listening to some of the hip hop and rap and things along those lines that they, and again, we the music I growing up listened to was not angelic by any means,
Right.
but some of these, how they portray violence or how they portray relationships with women or things along those lines, there's still some pretty shocking things that are out there that turn some heads and make people angry still.
The shock has evolved, I would say, to a different like battleground. But what my deal is like kind of punk rock music is kind of less so. Like the culture shock is was fought back then.
Yeah.
And now like what's the like Lil Nas X when he had the satanic shoes.
Oh no, just that entire era when he released Montero.
Well, that's my point. That's kind of where the battleground has evolved now. It's like now we're getting into more niche fights, right?
I honestly though, I think that's it's cool enough that we even got a video like that because or just a song like that because it shows people are still fighting over it, but the fact that it got made in the first place shows how we've progressed a bit because I don't think if you did that in the 80s, if you made us, I'm not even talking about like song wise how it sounds, just the lyrics.
Yeah.
If you wrote something like that, you would not be alive.
Taken off the radio.
Yeah.
Period.
But there were people, and I get it, but a lot of those things that you're talking about now, the foundation was laid back then, right? Because if you go back and look at 80s, and I was a rock and roll guy in the 80s, but the 80s were very eclectic, right? You had a lot of envelope pushing, in all the genres, right? From George Michael to Madonna to Michael Jackson to
the hair metal.
The hair metal scene,
Motley Crue.
Metallica, the thrash genre.
Metallica.
That's right. When so you were all over the map, and when you were in school, right? You can see where the groups were by the shirts that they wore and the hairstyles that they had. Like when I was in school, we called them Madonna Wanas, right? So all the Madonna listeners who dressed like her they all hung out together, right? And the people that want to look like Pat Benatar all hung out together. And the metalheads, right? All the Metallics, they all hung out together, right? And all the pop kids, right? And they'd all hang out together. So you just look at a high school campus and just kind of tell cliques. It was all cliques by music. But a lot of that music was cutting edge, right? It was cutting edge. People were pushing the envelope at the time and pushing whatever genre they had forward and whatever message they had at the same time.
That's fascinating. So you're telling me the Breakfast Club was like real?
Breakfast Club was real. Yeah, it was real. That's what made it such a popular movie at the time. Like you can as a high school kid at that time, you could identify with any one of those 5 kids. It was a brilliant movie, honestly, at the time to reflect America, high school America at that time.
Yeah, boy.
Absolutely.
I have a question though, so we talked a bit about how generations, when they carry over, it seems like every generation finds something like in music that they don't like I think what's special about, the only thing special that we have is we haven't really had stuff like that. We had some, but because I listen to the music you mostly listen to. So
yeah, and
but have there been, because I do listen, I listen to some of the heavier stuff. So what would you think on that?
about the heavier stuff that you listen to?
That, and also just comment on generational like beef with music.
Ooh,
Well-
beef. Here we go.
I couldn't. My
This
brain,
should get juicy.
that's what my brain went to.
Well, I mean, part of the foundation that was laid with you was, especially as a musician, when you were developing and growing as a singer, and then now singer-songwriter, we knew you were going to go a direction. And what we've always told you is you want to, just like all these other people we've been talking about, you want to create your own path, right? What is going to be, where are you going to take this as an artist? And some of the, and that's gonna come with a diverse set of ears and a diverse set of styles, and you're gonna listen to some things, and I'm not gonna like them, and your mother's not gonna like them, and that's okay. I've always told you that's okay, as long as you stay true to who you are, right? And so there's some of the things that you listen to, like I would never go to a Mastodon concert. I think that's that's too much for me. But if you go and you enjoy it, then great, right? Then go and enjoy it, right? Then that's what it's about. Every time I've taken you to a show lately, it's been, what can you take away from that you can put into your style or your show or your writing skills, right?
Yeah.
We've seen the Eagles, and we've seen Kiss, and we've seen Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Joan Jett and Poison and Bon Jovi, and we've seen a lot of bands
And
right?
other bands that you'd find in the Supernatural first couple seasons.
Yeah, and we shared. We were on the railing at a U2 concert, and we looked right at all the members of U2.
That was one of the best days of my life. He pulled me out of school when I was my freshman year of high school.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Went down to the floor, got to meet Bono. That was one of the best days of my life.
And you met Bono. Oh my gosh, that's grade A parenting right there. Pull you out of school to meet Bono.
That was a good day.
Yeah,
that was a good day.
But,
so, but all of that now is, what is it going to do for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a musician, what is that going to do for you? I know what it's done for me, right? I'm not a musician, but I know that what it's done for me is it's a religious experience, right? When I go to shows, there's times where it just takes you places where nothing else can. It's very transcendent, and you'll sit and listen. And I've been at shows where I've teared up, right? Listen to stuff, and it wells up. It brings back memories and good feelings of who you're with and what it's about and the experiences that you share. And there's nothing like a live show. And so when you go to them, at some point, you're on stages, and you're on stages, and I'm in the crowd watching you on stages, and what are you going to give me that I can take home and continue to listen to and experience and want to come back and see you again?
I think
100%.
Yeah.
That's you just hit it on the nail on the head. Like everything, but it's a religious experience, honestly, and you just get so many just amazing vibes, and every show that you love that you just can't get enough of is like it brings the brain neurons together, and it forms like a precious memory that you'll never let go of sometimes.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
We saw U2 at the old Staples Center. Now it's Crypto.com Arena, but we saw them at the Staples Center.
Orange.
Right after 9/11. They played a show in there right after 9/11, and No Doubt opened for them, and that was a great double bill. And at the end of the show, they played One and Walk On to end in their encores, and that's when they played. While they were playing those songs, they listed the names of all the victims from 9/11, like from the towers and the planes and everything, and it scrolled up, and all these names are scrolling up on your bodies, and it was emotional, right? It was really emotional and heavy and healing and cathartic and everything at the same time. And those two songs are special on their own, but then when you add that element, that visual element to it, it was never forget it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah,
Never forget it.
Those are two songs that well, U2 just has. I mean, I guess this is now turning into a U2 fanboy.
Yeah. Well, you can do that, but I think you just explained music perfectly in that little spiel, because you said like heavy and really powerful, but also cathartic and healing. Like, I can think of no better like description of the sensation of music. It hits you in every way that should hurt, but it's also the pseudo pain that comes from it is it's like a medicine. It's like a psychological medicine, and it hits in a way that I don't think any other sensation can really come close to. It's like watching a different dimension, and like all the feelings that come from that. Meanwhile, your body is three-dimensional. So it's almost like something that you'll never be able to describe.
Yeah, it's a universal language, right? They say that. I know that's cliche, but it's a universal language. And you watch some of these current bands and bands that have played in these stadiums around the world, and to people that many times don't even, like, if it's a band that sings in English, they don't speak English, but they know the songs and they know how it makes them feel.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I have an album from a German band. I have no idea what they're talking about.
Wait, what German band?
The German band is called Die Toten Hosen.
If you were about to say Rammstein, I was about to be like, bro, you could just say Rammstein. I know people know.
Yeah, and I just found this band on a whim because Jello Biafra like sang like guest vocals at one time.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, but the actual band is completely German, and they sing in German, and it's like I forgot what album I have, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
It moves me.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they're singing about though, and it's
you even see that with like some of the youth and kids that I work with, right, in the K-pop movement, right? That
K-pop,
whole K-pop sensation.
There you go.
I have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea a lot of times what they're saying, but it moves them, right? And then you see the translations and things that they have, but the same. That's that same.
Yeah, and Japanese music in anime is very kind in that sometimes they have English.
I was about to bring up.
Sometimes they have English sentences, and I don't know if that's like to like, hey, you're cool, you're English, or if it's a business decision, I don't know. But like, hey, I appreciate it, but I still can't hear. I don't know what they're talking about half the time, and that's okay because a lot of it is really, really cool music. Like from the same kind of thing, electric guitar, electric bass, drums, stuff that I like. And, actually, a really good song connected to a really good story is actually, like, you'll connect the two if you hear it in the right way. Like, I'm going to give you an example. I really associate the song "Go with the Flow" by Queens of the Stone Age to this anime Ruby, because I edited when I was like 14. I edited that song as an AMV, and now that song is
I probably have seen that AMV.
That song is forever ingrained in my brain as a Ruby song, and that's kind of what happens. Is like if you're watching a movie, like. Quentin Tarantino plays this in his song, or Top Gun.
That's right.
Danger Zone.
That's right.
Like it becomes connected with like more than just the song. It becomes more. It becomes like you see the fighter pilots it's flying whenever you hear Kenny Loggins.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of that story. We were at a camp one time many, many years ago, our camp musician was playing a concert at that time, and this is when down in Orange County we had a military base down in El Toro, and they would have F-18s fly, and right over our
Yeah.
camp. Almost every day, 2-3 times a day, you'd hear F-18s fly. And one time these F-18s were flying over, and this guy was warming up for his concert, and we were meeting in our small groups, but he was plugged in, and he just started playing. It wasn't Kenny Logg, but he started playing. He started playing that, right? He started playing, and you're just like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect, right? And he nailed it, and it was a moment, but that's exactly what you're talking about, right? It's equated to that. And I tell him too, as a songwriter, right? There's the story, right? We sit and listen to folks who are good storytellers, right? Who are good storytellers. Bruce Springsteen is a good storyteller. Bono's a good storyteller. Garth Brooks is an incredible storyteller.
Mark Cohn
is a good storyteller, right? They are just people that just, that tell, they paint pictures, right?
Yeah, the greatest lyricists
That's right.
paint the greatest pictures through
They
their
do.
lyrics. And that's really an undersold talent that every musician has. Not everyone can do it. I can't do it. I just play drums here.
James Taylor is a good storyteller.
James
Right?
Taylor,
They are
storyteller,
great
yeah.
storytellers, absolutely.
And you've really made it if you can hitch the fact that you just hit stuff to a great storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely
me.
true. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
But the story needs a sound, and the story needs a rhythm, and the story needs a cadence, right? And the story needs something to drive it. And your rhythm section of a band is critical in making that story come alive. Right?
Yeah, that's perfect because it is a real team game. Everybody's got their role, everybody has their job in a rock band, and everybody's goal is to do exactly what you said, to put everything into a story and get those neurons firing to the listener, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it works better than others.
That's right.
And but that's the real goal from at least for me. That's the real goal, is that you're really just trying to get that listener to get where he didn't even know you, or he or she didn't even know where they wanted to be.
Right.
Mentally.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. What do you think?
I'm thinking a lot of things.
Is that a good point?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in.
It's a great point. Yeah.
How do you think about stories in your writing?
I try as hard as I can to at least portray the story, or at least the inspiration of why I wrote that song. For Market Street Station, I wrote Give Me More. I wrote that right after a 21 Pilots concert, because I was like, hey, this is a great concert. They're giving me a lot, but I wish, I want more. I want to be in the pit. And then I was thinking, okay, I wish I could. So people can equate that to just, to a basic want of just giving more. Astrid, I wrote about my first time at a bass scene concert and how we idolize these people, these local heroes, these figures, these musicians, and that's why we wrote that. I hope people can try to understand that.
Can you tell when a song is great?
Yes.
You got it. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
From the get go.
Like,
because I can't.
Even with
I have no idea. And I've only written a handful of songs in my 26 years of life, but I can never tell. And I look at my guitarist Colin, and I don't think he can tell. Whenever he writes something this is gonna be the song that we're going to play for years. I don't think he can tell.
Yeah, for sure. But I even with Closet Monster, even with them, and Circus, I try to find some version of inspiration. What's it called? Oh yeah, even as a song as basic as Gender Ender, silly as it was. I wrote that about people. I heard people from that community, LGBT, talk about just gender norms, and that's what inspired me, and I hope people can understand. And the one thing I remember was my good friend Lars. I saw him, he had a jacket, and it said, "It's gender is over" on the back, and I was like, okay. And that was originally the title of the song, but then Ava and Annika were like, nah, let's make it this, and I was like, all right, it's still fun. I still liked it, and for others, I'm writing a song for Circus called "The Path I Walk," which is very different from all the other stuff we've written. The rest of the stuff we've written was more just for just to sound poetic and also different, and so to say, in a creepy and interesting way. The Path I Walk is going to be like a straightforward kind of telling a story song about, everyone's walking a path barefoot essentially, and there's gonna be a lot of things on that that you can't protect yourself from,
Right, and it's
on
metaphorical.
your feet, and but we keep walking down that path because this is what we choose to do. This is the path we walk, and this is the road we roam. That's a line from the song.
Awesome. That's the path I walk too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm totally in on this life.
It's a good
Being a
path.
musician.
Yeah, it's a good path.
Every path, like the point of the song is, it's kind of dreary, but the point is, every path, no matter what path we take in life, has that broken glass, has that gravel, those sharp rocks that are gonna cut your feet and they're gonna make it collapse. They're gonna fall, and it's up to you whether you wanna
How you react to it.
keep crawling on all fours, because sometimes you're gonna have to crawl on all fours, and someone's gonna have to help pick you up and then get you to the sand so you can walk across the sand. But it's you who makes that choice.
But it's a lot of those people that help you during those times are the ones that celebrate with you too, right? It's not the path that you're on is not all broken glass. Right?
No, it's not.
There's healing and there's good things that come along with it, and that's your story, right? That's part of your story. We, as musicians, on my phone and on your phones, you have playlists and artists, and we call that now. You look at your phone playlist, and that's all the soundtrack of your life, right? What is the soundtrack of your life at that particular moment in time? And when you hear something new, what do you add to it? And does your story have relevance to people, to your audience, right? And how do you make that grow? We were talking about concerts earlier, and one of the cool things that he did for me, right, was he talked about 21 Pilots earlier, and he said, I want to take you to a show. So he took me and his grandma to the 21 Pilots show. So that was fun. That was a fun show. I enjoyed being a part of that. He actually got me tickets to see Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, really?
Up in San Francisco.
But then Zach broke his foot.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
you couldn't get to go?
They canceled.
But that's actually a really nice sentiment. That's really
right.
nice.
Very
You're giving me ideas. Like, I need to
So
maybe
that
sing
was
Margaritaville with my dad.
Yeah. It's things along those lines. Like, I would have never seen 21 Pilots on my own. I probably never would have seen Rage on my own. I like their message. There's a lot of anger. I don't in their music. Mm-hmm. I love listening to Tom Morello speak. He and I have kind of the same style of music. He inducted Kiss in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and his speech was really good. But when I hear him speak about music, he speaks very articulately and excitedly, right? About music.
Really passionate about that.
Absolutely.
The way he plays guitar and the way he, does it all. Yeah.
Saw him play with Springsteen. Actually, he was part of the E Street Band on one of the tours that I saw, and they let him cut loose on "Ghost of Tom Joad," and it was.
That's a great song.
It is a great song, and then he added his guitar flair, his Rage flair to the solos in that, and took it to another level. It was really
he has
good.
that in spades.
Absolutely, it was really good.
Yeah, I saw Tom Morello again in 2015 in that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was there to support Stevie Ray Vaughan, who died, who was posthumously inducted, and yeah, he was right at home with all these stars, and he was like, you could just tell his working class like roots were like, yeah, I'm gonna.
I remember when Stevie Ray Vaughan died. That was a tough day. He was just starting to come out. We listened. Two radio stations I listened to growing up here in LA were KLOS and KMET, and KLOS played a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan at the time. And I loved that blues, heavy blues, but just riffy.
He played guitar so uniquely and so well. Like, I wish I could play drums the way he plays guitar.
Yeah.
You know,
It seemed very natural.
He was like he was born to play it, like just straight from birth. Yeah,
absolutely,
just gone too soon. You know, freak accident. That's always a hard thing to talk about, because like you just wonder what they could have done if they had lived. You know, all the stuff that we could have been listening to. You know, and it seems kind of selfish because like I didn't do it. Like I didn't play the way he did, like he did. But I still just really, really would like to live in a world where, you know, nobody has to die like you know, 25 years before they, you know, naturally go, and therefore we're robbed of like so much great music, you know.
It's true.
Man, we getting deep.
Yeah, so anyway, on that note.
It's all good. That's good. That's what the music does to you. Right?
Yeah.
It
Real connections with.
It does.
Just, you know, with people I've never even met or was even in the same lifetime as. You know, I came in like way after they were gone, but I still just feel all the feelings that they felt through their just masterful just compositions of like how they played guitar and how they sang, how they played bass, how they played drums, like anything.
We took a trip to the Pacific Northwest last summer, and 2 stops that we made were in Nirvana's hometown.
Aberdeen.
That was our first stop. Yeah.
Aberdeen.
And went to this little park where they have a shrine and stuff to Kurt Cobain along the river.
There's actually a fun fact. So the bridge that's right by that park, that's the bridge he wrote "Something in the Way" under.
Right, allegedly, yeah.
And that's the bridge he sings about in the song.
Yeah.
So. And so that was, I mean, it was cool to be there and see kind of what happened and where they grew up. And then that was the very first stop on our trip, and the very last stop on our trip was to Jimi Hendrix's cemetery,
His grave
resting
site.
place, at the cemetery. And it's a big shrine, right? It's a big shrine, all kinds of things around him, and you just walk in and you're like, and you think those same thoughts that you just said, like, man, what could have been? But then at the same time, you're like, what was really good.
Yeah,
right?
that is a good.
What was really good.
It's a good point. You know, there's silver lining. At least we did have them. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling when you just get soaked in to someone like that, and it's like, man, I don't even know who he was or she.
Right.
You know,
and they changed the game.
Yeah.
Right. Those 2 right there changed the scene. Right. They changed how music was listened to, and then people emulated them afterward, and they still do. Right. They still do to this day. But those 2, and there's countless others that did. But every now and then someone comes along and they're going to change the game, right? And whether you like it or not, right? Whether you like, that's going to be up to you. I mean, that's the beauty of art, right? That art form, like it or not like it, but you got to admit that you changed it.
You can tell, like
That's
the
right.
cream rises to the top, and you see it. That's the one.
Very true.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the closest you've ever been? Like, what's like the best story you've had, like, with like a rock star, or like, you know, a celebrity rock star? You have like a real like like that story.
Give me a minute.
First one is before that. My first one, my wife and I have seen this singer-songwriter Mark Cohn we've seen him a lot, right? And there's a place down here in Orange County that we like to see him called the Coach House, and he's played there often, and we like to see him there. And he's another like wonderful storyteller. And one a friend of mine for our wedding gift made a charcoal drawing of Mark Cohn, and it was a rendition, or the artwork was a drawing on the back of his CD. And I took it to the show, and after the show was over, the dressing room and stuff was upstairs at the Coach House, and so I asked security if I could go up there and have him sign the picture. And he did, right? I walked upstairs, showed the picture. He was back in another part of the room, and he came out, and we had a conversation. He said, "Who made this?" I said, "A friend of mine made this. This is a beautiful thing." And he signed it. He signed the back of it. And again, very engaged. How'd you like the show? It was a wonderful show. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for this. My wife and I, our wedding song that we danced to was "True Companion," right?
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
I told him that, and he's heard that a lot. And then he wrote another song called "Things We've Handed Down," that is about the birth of a child, his first child. And so when we found out we were pregnant with both of our boys, we played that one. So he's had a lot of influence in our life. And so I had a really nice conversation with him, and that was probably my first one. And I enjoyed that discourse that we had. We had mentioned earlier that I took him out of school one day to go see U2. We got there early. U2, they have in their their general admission seats, right? The standing room. So you got to get there, you get a wristband. They put a number on your hand, and you can leave and then come back, and they get you in line where you're supposed to be and all these things. But they said, hey, we saw him at the Forum in LA, and they said, hey, there's a spot over here where the band members sometimes have been coming out. And we're like, all right. So we went and got some food. We came back, and there were people gathering at this spot. We had a good spot right on the railing, and some chairs were sitting there just chilling, talking to people, and then sure enough, man, Bono's car pulls up. He gets out of the car and he starts down the way, and he starts shaking hands and doing things. But before he got there, people are bringing all these books. And,
oh yeah,
what am I going to sign? What's he going to sign? I'm like, I don't know. What's he going to sign? So I went in at the church I used to go to. We had this is a brochure from a Good Friday service.
Right.
I had that in the back of my car. And I said, well, you sign this, right?
Yeah,
I had
good
a pen.
enough.
Yeah, he was like, he looked at me and he was like, "Is this gonna work?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah, I don't know. And everyone had all these U2 books and stuff, and so he comes down the line, and he was moving pretty quick because he got there kind of late. But I said, he met Garrett first.
Yeah, shook his
Because
hand.
Garrett was on my right. And,
Wow, very
and
nice
he
guy.
was coming
Very
that
nice.
way, and he shook his hand. Garrett says, "My dad's a big fan of yours," So I put this out to him, and I shook his hand, and it said, and I just looked at him and I said, "Thank you." And he looked and he read this. And if you're listening, it says, "Hail Glorious King" on the front of our Good Friday service.
It does. I can see that.
And
Look
then
at
he
that.
says, then he looks at me, because it's not a U2 book, and it's not something that people would normally have him sign.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, "Amen, brother." And that's what he signed. He signed "Amen, brother" on the front.
Oh, that's great.
And we
Wow.
took a picture, and he moved on. And then we had tickets for the next night. And so Garrett didn't go with us the next night, but my wife and a friend of mine did. And we went back to that same spot, and their guitarist, The Edge, came out and did the same thing and kind of went down the line. And this time I did bring a book, a U2 book that I had, and he signed that U2 book and stopped and took more pictures and things with us. And very engaging, right? He's very...
Yeah, and we're talking about the U2 guitarist here, not the wrestler, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
The Edge. Yeah.
Yeah, the U2 guitarist. And so those are some. We were at a Marcone concert in LA one time and at the Roxy, and he introduced a song he was going to play, and David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash was like sitting in a booth right behind us, right? And
Wow.
he comes out right by, we're like, what? And so that was cool. So we've had a few. We met.
That's
we
a
were
couple.
backstage to at a Counting Crows concert.
Counting Crows, I know that.
Yeah, we saw them at the Greek.
Shrek 2.
Shrek 2. There you go.
Shrek 2. We saw them at the Greek Theater up in LA, and my sister-in-law is related to the keyboardist, and so they got us tickets and backstage passes, and so we went backstage and met the band and hung out with the keyboardist a lot, and but it was a good night, right? We had a really good night backstage with them and hanging out with the Counting Crows one night. So we've had a few.
Yeah, that's a couple
we've had a
really
few
cool encounters
Yeah.
with like pretty cool rock stars.
You've had a couple. I know you've had a couple.
Well, here's mine. Like my when I was in that same hotel in the same Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event, I went in an elevator, and me and my brothers were like, okay, we're going down to the lobby. We're gonna get some food, and then the door opens, and it's Trey Cool, Trey Cool and his girlfriend, and we turn to each other and we give each other each the look,
Right.
the same look, like that's Trey Cool. So we walk in, and we're all there. And my brother turns to me and like say something. He's like, okay, whatever. Like, hey, you're that guy. And he's like, I sure am. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. I wanted to say, you're that guy from The Lookouts, which is his old
That's
band. I wish I had said that, but no. We just stared there in stony silence. But wait, there's another part to the story. We go our separate ways. Well, actually, 1.5. Like we go down, we get some food, and I see my uncle come down, and Trey sees him, and they don't say a word, but they just have this glorious high five.
Nice.
And I saw it, and it was like, I'm never gonna forget that for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
Okay, and then at the end of the night, they had just played their show. Everyone had just played. And me and my brothers are standing in a we're like, okay, who do we say hi to next? And lo and behold, there's Trey Cool again, and he recognizes us.
Nice.
Like, you're the guy from the elevator, and he's like, I sure am. And then there's the song is Twist and Shout over the radio or something, and it's the Beatles, and they're just about to go, to their yeah, you know the one, and then Trey Cool, he hears it. And he's like, everybody sing! And it's just to me and my brothers. Like, he's just focused on us. And we all sing, twist and shout the Oz. And then we just lose our minds. And like, yeah, that's my Trey Cool story.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a great feeling.
It is, and it's
When
nice when they acknowledge their fans, right? That's the thing, right? Because they're not who they are without the fans, and so and I know that's got to get old sometimes, and being out in public, and I don't want to be recognized today, but when they are and people approach them and they're polite about things, not like jerks.
I imagine they are human.
They are human.
Like, rock stars are no different. Like, physiologically, like, they get sick of the grind of their jobs sometimes, I imagine.
But it's nice
we
to
get
hear.
sick of the grind.
Yeah, we get sick of the grind. I imagine how these guys feel, right?
It's nice to hear when they treat their fans well like that. That's always good.
Yeah, it's a good humbling thing when you meet a rock star that's actually really patient with you and really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think in a moment I had I'm a big fan of the band American Authors. They're the guys who wrote Best Day of My Life. They're pretty poppy, but I just really like them. They're one of the best live bands I think I've seen. If you ever get the chance just to see them, just go, because they're really fun. And one night I saw them in San Francisco. My girlfriend and I went, and they literally took their instruments. It was all acoustic, no microphones, nothing. So like, not a lot of people could hear them, but it was a small venue, and they went into the audience, like in the middle of the audience, and they just sang with all of them. And at the very end, they went back. They didn't go backstage, they didn't do anything. They went to the back of the venue, and they were just like, hey, we're at the back of the venue. Come take photos with us. And it wasn't like a professional thing. It was just literally just you hand someone your phone, and they were like,
Yeah.
and it was like just super late. They were the nicest dudes. They were so nice. You could just tell that they loved what they were doing, and they were very happy to see that. And I remember thinking like, okay, this is how I want, if I start getting a bigger following, this is how I want to treat these friends. I've been, this is going to sound really pretentious, but you were there for this. I have been recognized 2 or 3 times now as someone from Closet Monster.
Really? Like on the street and like
on the street.
Like you're in that band.
Once was getting up. He was with me. We were getting on the BART, and some girls were coming off like, "Hey, you're the dude from Closet Monster," and I was like, "Yeah."
True.
And
how'd that feel?
yeah, I felt really cool. It was better that my dad. It was much better that my dad was with me because now I have like.
Yeah. Right.
I saw it. I
And,
didn't see it.
There was that, and then I was.
I know, right? What?
Someone recognized me. 2 people recognized me at a Powerwolf show, and because someone was wearing a Frolic T-shirt, which is a thrash metal in the scene, and I was like, "Hey, we played a show with those guys," and they were like, "Oh yeah, they're sick," and they're like, "Wait, you played a show?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "What band you in?" And I'm in Closet Monster, and he was like, "Oh my god." Oh my god, I love you guys.
That's great.
He was the nicest guy, and
Yeah.
I still see him at circus shows, and came to the last Closet Monster show I was in, and he's a really nice guy. He's a really cool guy. I should know your name, but I know your Instagram, Shotgun Center. If you're listening to this,
it's a great feeling. I imagine.
thank you very much.
We have a Rock and Brews restaurant that opened over here in Tustin, and at the grand opening, Paul Stanley came. It's a Gene Simmons Paul Stanley restaurant franchise.
Oh, excellent.
And Paul Stanley came in for
I
a
should take it
signing
there tomorrow for dinner.
Oh, okay.
And,
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it's cool. And so I met Paul Stanley at that event, and he was very nice, right? And in fact,
Yeah.
I said, I wish my son was here. He would like to. He goes, "What's your son's name?" I said, "Garrett." So he recorded something for Garrett.
I still have the video.
Yeah.
I still have
Well,
that.
notoriously, Paul Stanley is much nicer than like Gene Simmons. So like, yeah, he would be nice.
It was
as I've read.
It was good. So that's
Yeah.
another one we ran into too. Well, we didn't run into him. We waited in line to see him, but but it was cool.
I guess if we're still going on this, I'll give one more. One of the it was a really cool night. My dad and I, because like I said, we're the concert guys. We went to go see Joan Jett, Poison, Def Leppard, and Motley Crue.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I
Yes.
heard of that.
That was
It's a good tour.
that was a really good show.
Yeah.
Which Vince Neil could look better or sound
They
better.
were good.
No, they
all
actually-
four bands were.
They
put on a
sounded
good
great.
show.
I'm not gonna lie, Motley Crue did do a good job of performing, but that was a really cool night because it was just a night of awesome music. Because I love the music from all these bands, specifically Def Leppard. I love Def Leppard. It was just really cool to experience that. We were on the floor, but I saw Phil X, who is the current guitarist for Bon Jovi, and my dad pointed that out.
Yeah,
And I was
that's Phil.
I was like, oh,
Phil X.
it's like, oh because not only is he the guitarist for the current guitarist for my favorite band, he's a really awesome musician, and he's got the name Phil X.
No,
you don't
on his birth certificate.
you don't put X in your name unless you know what you're doing, and this guy knew what he was doing.
And he was very nice.
Yeah, we met.
He was very nice.
I got to
Took
meet
a
him.
picture with us.
And I was like, I'm a huge fan of your work. And I wanted to say the Drills because he's in a band called the Drills, and I was like, oh, you're great in the Drills, but I couldn't remember it. So I was like, I love your work. I love all your work.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool moment. He was a really nice guy.
That is great.
He was nice.
Yeah. I'll tell you my weirdest thing. I again at the same aforementioned event, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was just wandering outside of the hotel, and who do I see but Pat Smear smoking a cigarette?
Yeah.
And he's all alone, just away from everything, and I'm just walking by him, and I just stop and I say, "Hey, you're Pat Smear," and he's like, "Yep." Like just takes another sip of the cigarette. Away? No, and then I say, "I really like your playing," because that's the only thing I could think of to say at the time. And he says, "Cool, bro." And that's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's.
Wait, in front of the Foo Fighters, didn't you also meet Taylor Hawkins one time?
I did. I talked about that on the podcast. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you two should talk about that because we have grown a bigger appreciation for the Foo Fighters in recent years.
That's right. And, I love the Foo Fighters. Always have actually. But
I went to the tribute concert.
You went to the
that's the one because like everyone was there.
It was a good show.
Did you see Taylor Hawkins' son, Shane Hawkins, play?
I did.
I've seen that video. He is insane, like on fire playing. And he's only what, 15, 16?
16 years old.
Oh, he's a rising star.
He played hard, he played well, right? And he was embraced by the crowd and embraced by the band, and everybody was there. That show started straight up at 7 and ended at 1 a.m.
1 a.m.
And it never stopped. It never stopped. And everything that came on was bigger and better, and it was just a cool night.
Yeah.
And you talk about what music does to people. There was a lot of sadness that night, but there was a lot of healing.
Celebration.
And celebration, right? There were the people that were there were just, the musicians they had were top notch. The songs that they played were incredible. The drummers that filled in for Taylor on some of these songs were really good. Foo Fighters did a 12-song set at the very end, and they had multiple drummers come and play with them. The guy that they just hired,
right?
Josh
Freese, yeah.
He played with them. Chad Smith played with them.
There's a lot of guest stars.
Blink's drummer.
Oh, Travis Barker.
Travis Barker played with them.
Yeah.
And Shane Hawkins played with
them.
Rufus Taylor played with them.
John Paul
Jones.
Yeah, John Paul. Yeah, Tool's drummer played with them. It was.
That's really cool.
It was.
I really wish I had been there because
you would have loved our seats because we were behind the stage where I could watch every drummer in their element.
Chad Smith was there.
I imagine he was there, and of course the man Dave Grohl himself. I really was. I was just watching videos of that show, and I was just near tearing up because
awesome.
That's a lot of coming together to celebrate, an amazing rock and roll life.
Lars Ulrich played on some songs.
Lars Ulrich.
It was a night. It was a night, that was for sure. And one of the best shows I've ever been to. There was a lot of stuff there.
Yeah,
and we had tickets to see them. We had tickets to see the Foo Fighters. That was our Christmas present that year.
Right.
Was to see them at Bank of California Stadium here, and then he passed.
Right.
The tour got canceled. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, one day we'll see him now that Josh Freese is with them. So.
Okay. Yeah.
One day.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious to see how Josh Freese does in his stead. But man, yeah, that's heavy.
It was.
That's heavy.
It was a good night, and it was what we had been talking about all night so far: the power of music, right? And what it does.
It's cathartic,
and it brought people together for a very unfortunate reason, but it did, and it helped.
Yeah,
it definitely helped.
All right.
I think we're gonna wrap it up.
We're gonna wrap it up.
We're almost 10 minutes over. Oh man. You know I always love the ones that go over because that means it's been good.
I mean, it's a good show. Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
I'm really glad you joined us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I appreciate being on. Thank you.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah,
it was a great podcast, everyone.
This is a good one. This is a great one.
An OG veterans account on how things are.
absolutely my
Respect your elders, unless your elders are pieces of shit to you.
Yeah. Don't take no shit. Oh, this book is huge. I have to go through.
I have a feeling we're gonna keep talking after I hit stop. Thank you guys all for listening.
Bye.
And
Bye.
do we have a
Thank
thing?
you.
Do we have a thing we say when we end?
We might. We'll think of something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Later.